You're listening to The Plate Up, a podcast for the food and beverage world, from restaurants to bars, hotels and travel. My name is Hisham Piris and I'm the corporate executive chef for Banyan Tree Hotels and Resorts. And I'm joined by my F&B counterpart, Sebastian Divascaya, F&B director at the one and only hotel in Mexico. And over the next hour, we are hoping to tackle some of the hottest topics in F&B, share some stories, go through our process, talk about the lessons we've learned, and how to untangle some of the complexities in this industry. Welcome back. Welcome, Sebastian.
Thank you.
You had a rough week, you were telling me.
Well, it's Tuesday.
It's only Tuesday.
Tuesday. It feels like Friday. But so does every day nowadays.
Yeah, well, that's true.
But it's
now. Yeah.
It's been intense. Calls, many calls.
Yeah, I know. Now, today, I know we've put this on our social media a little bit. There was a white paper that came out last week or the week before. It was called Redesigning Dining. It was put out by Raw Design? Is that what they call it?
Raw Design, yes.
Raw Design. So they're a company out of Dubai. Now, I've actually put a link to this on our Facebook page, so you can actually find this document. We've put it on our Google Drive, so it's shareable. Now, there's a lot to talk about that. Now, well, I actually shared this with Sebastian during the week, and it was funny. He made an observation because to kind of give you a bit of a lead in, this was it seems like it was kind of a group call. It was a panel discussion. Now, a couple of things to take note, and it's quite important. This was based out of Dubai.
Yes.
Raw Design is also based in Dubai. Majority of the panelists, actually, I would say, I think all of the panelists are in some way
in Dubai or in the UAE.
Yeah, exactly. They may have offices elsewhere, but this was the Dubai chapter, if you could say. And one of the panelists is Food Diva. And it was funny because we were talking about social media in our last episode and how you should deal with influencers, bad reviews, food reviews. And you made a point to, you linked me to an article that Food Diva had written about a restaurant in Dubai. It was called, is it Guyano? Is that how you'd say it?
Guyano, yes.
Yeah, Guyano. It was in the Maiden Beach Club. Yes, reading the review, it wasn't so bad. But the chef had taken it very personally.
And that's one way to put it, yes.
And had, let's say, given a free opinion in the way of a rebuttal. And one of the lines he had said is, "The only squash at the table was attached to your neck."
Yeah, well, this is when it gets personal.
Yes. And then another line, "Go to other restaurants in other locations, check them out, but don't forget to first wear a condom on your tongue in order to contain the orgasm of your ignorance." Now, a couple of things to point. This was from 2012, so this was
quite old, yes.
It's quite old, and I'm sure this has been a case study in many online, or not online, any study into social media and PR management and things like that. I'm sure this has become a case study in many cases. But this is a how not to handle social media, if anything.
Yes.
So
yes.
Yeah.
If you do a reply to a social media post, I mean, stick to the facts and be as impartial as possible. Don't get emotional. The minute you get emotional, you lose. And also, it's worth to note that so Foodiva is a website, and she is a writer. And the title of her website is Food Diva: Impartial, Intelligent Restaurant Reviews, Food Features, and Dining Experiences. And I also believe that in some way or another, the whole Food Diva platform are one of the participants or the creators of the Dubai Restaurant Week, if I'm not wrong.
Okay.
So they review restaurants, and they do all kinds of activities around restaurants. And as any of those businesses, as soon as you start getting a bit big, you do partnerships and you do events and you do a bit of PR and you do a bit of marketing. So you go from impartial to a bit more involved, I would say.
Yeah. Now, let's tackle this document that's come out, and I think it's actually a very good discussion that's been had. It's a discussion that had to happen. They've now, like I said, now let me just quickly go through the panelists. You've got majority of them are they're all hospitality industries. You have got Wilson Associates, who are mainly a design firm, if I'm right.
Yes.
So there's a couple of design firms in here, which is quite important because it does tackle how you now design restaurants and, what would be things to focus on. You've got a couple of hoteliers in there. So it's quite a credible team. Now, they've focused on 9 trends, and I will go through those 9 trends. So 1 being layout and spacing, 2 being contactless dining, 3 being food steps, 4 being psychology, 5 being business models, 6 being materials. So when we say materials, antimicrobial, 7 being architectural history, 8 being original immersiveness and escapist design, and 9 being design trends. Now, let's tackle some of the ones that, we won't have time to tackle every single point in here.
No.
But I want to tackle a couple of the interesting ones.
There's one thing I just want to mention, and before we get into the thick of it, it's very important for everyone that's listening to us and everyone around the world, and us included, that we are in trying times. And there's still a lot about everything that's happening that we don't understand and we don't know. And so this white paper by Roar is amazing because it's an effort for people to understand what's happening and trying to understand what we're getting into. But obviously, and like any early document or like any scientific document or non-scientific document, there's no perfect science. We are still figuring things out. And now everyone is doing an outreach. And at the end of the episode, I will mention of another one who's doing a survey now, which is part of the MAD collective, the MAD collective, who is also doing a survey about what is going to happen to restaurants after COVID. But what I wanted to mention is that the angle of this paper that we're discussing today is they've asked questions to 170 industry professionals. So it's the opinion of 170 people.
Yeah.
And these questions were formulated by this focus group of 9 people that we just mentioned.
Yeah.
So the opinions, because they did a poll on these 9 topics that you just mentioned, Heshan, and basically they're asking, are these things here to stay? Are they going to really change forever? Or is it just a passing fad or trend? Or are we going to revert back into our normal ways? So this is the guiding script behind each one of these topics, is asking every person, 170 persons that they've talked to, is it here to stay or not? What is your opinion? And so there's a percentage of opinion around each of these topics, which is great because it kind of gives us an opinion of what the general F&B industry is thinking about. But please keep in mind, it's still only a group of 170 people. It's not exact science. We're still figuring things out.
And just to add on to that, we're not here to dissect and debate and say this is right, this is wrong in this actual document. I think we're just here to talk about a few points from our own experiences.
Yes.
One thing that I think you do need to now. One thing we don't know about this actually is I'm not sure if it was there, but I can't remember reading it when the actual survey happened.
True, that also impacts a lot.
Yes, because some of the data here now, I can tell you now, when we first went into lockdown measures, we didn't expect that in June we'd still be having lockdown measures. So, we don't know if this is based in early February when it was very, when it was when it's at the beginnings of, well, I wouldn't say the beginnings, but where restaurants were at the beginnings of closures and travel industry was coming to a close and people were thinking, well, this may only last us a couple of months, So yes. We don't know that. That's something to probably make clear. So let's tackle the first one about layout spacing restrictions. They've kind of
there might be an answer to your question in that document, in that particular category. Because they already say this is what is mandated by the UAE health authorities upon reopening in April 2020.
Okay, well there you go.
So we are already past April 2020, and things have reopened in the UAE, but that's only a week old.
Yeah. Okay. So we're now. So majority they've taken. When will layout spacing return to normal in restaurants? Late 2020, early 21, late 21, 2022, and never. Now, 2022 and never have 4.7 respondents saying that. Late 2020, 25%. Majority believe early 2021, and 22% believe late 2021. Sorry, yeah. What do you think on this?
I think it's very early to say anything on this because we still don't know so many things. We don't know. Okay, we know one thing: it's COVID-19 is very contagious. We know how it's transmitted, but we still don't know exactly how contagious it is. And if social distancing helps to cut transmission. But what we're doing in the lockdown is like extreme social distancing. We don't know if this safe distance of 2 meters is actually enough. Maybe it could be 1.5 meters or 1 meter. We said 2 meters because that seems, we said the universe or the world has decreed that 2 meters is the distance because we thought that is the safest distance we can communicate with someone else. So to say that by early 2021, we will go back to normal restaurant layouts, I don't know. It's very early to talk about that. And when we're saying going back to normal restaurant layouts is because what the UAE, and we're speaking here about Dubai, what Dubai government is asking the restaurants is to work only at 30% restaurant capacity. So that the question is, when are we going to go from 30% back to 100% restaurant capacity? But other governments do allow you to only serve up to 20% of your capacity, right? It really depends on the country. So I don't know. Things could change next week. Yeah. I can't say. I definitely think that for safety measures, we should stick to it at least until the end of the year, just to understand more and to be safe. But from there to say that by early 2021 we can go back to normal layouts, it's not for me to say. We can't. There's so many things we don't know about this yet.
How do you think the bar industry is going to be affected by this? Because let's be honest,
that's another question.
Bars and clubs are gonna. Let's start with bars, because clubs, it's extremely hard, and I don't even know. I'm not experienced enough to talk about how to manage a nightclub, but let's talk about bars. How is a bar going to
enforce
social distancing, especially when bars are a social gathering place.
It's almost impossible unless you make like a what are these mazes in the fun fairs called? These mirror mazes?
Yeah, I know.
Unless you transform your bar into this. In the paper, it's mentioned as vertical drinking, which is very correct. People stand up and drink. And there's no way you can have a bar, a social atmosphere where people are 2 meters away from each other, unless you make a box in the floor and you say you can only stand on that box. And to take it further, events, groups in hotels, a cocktail for 200 people on the beach, how is that going to work? Because, how
but
forget the buffet.
I don't see in the short term any MICE businesses coming, or events and, event business coming to, forget hotels, any conference center, anything like that, anytime soon.
Well, unless you can really, unless it's a meeting and you can really ensure, like the White House press conference, that you can ensure that people enter in a staggered way, that they sit separately, and that they exit in a staggered way. It's very controlled.
Fine. Yeah.
But otherwise, I don't see it happening. Bars are going to suffer a lot from this, because bars, as you mentioned rightfully, are social spaces, and people go there to meet other people, and this is kind of the anti-behavior nowadays.
Yeah. I think also another point to put down on this is, this collective have agreed, majority have said early 2021. That's really government based now. I think when this was originally happening, there was no, governments and local laws hadn't really said, this is now the distance, or this is what has to be implemented. Restaurateurs were kind of pretty much coming up at their own, they were coming up with their own hypotheses and saying, well, it should be 1 meter, 2 meter. Yes. But I think now all areas have government guidelines on what it should be. And it would be local laws that dictate when that would end, not necessarily, if local laws say, okay, restaurants can now go back to normal, that's when I'm guessing restaurants will go back to normal. Until then, and no one's thought, this doesn't take into account second wave, third wave, fourth wave. It could be 2022, if you keep on having these multiple waves coming through.
And we have the opposite scenario as well, where we have governments who have said, okay, let's reopen, and restaurant owners and restaurant professionals saying, sure, we're happy to reopen. Where are the guidelines?
Yep.
I'm not going to reopen if you don't get guidelines, because I don't know what is correct, what is incorrect, and I don't want to take any risks. And a lot of people feel liable, and responsible as well. So you have also the opposite case where governments have said, let's reopen, and the restaurant industry said, oh, well, okay, sure, but how? Give us the guidelines.
Yep. What did you find in here that kind of piqued your interest the most? There was a couple of points in here, but I'd like to let you have a.
Well, that's one of here. In here, they mentioned that the UAE health authorities, actually not. Sorry, my bad. It's the World Health Organization recommends 27 square feet per diner for F&B outlets to be to respect that during the coronavirus outbreak. So transpose that to a bar. Yeah, transpose that to a bar scenario.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, you have a lot of real estate, but it's a bit weird.
Yeah. Contactless dining, here to stay. What are your thoughts on this? Do you think it's forever or no?
I think this is definitely going to stay. I think we are moving more and more into contactless transactions. So there's two angles. There's transactions. When I say transactions, it's exchange of documents, money, bills, paper, menus, and another one is obviously people contact, right? It's funny that it's great because we always have something to say about this or an anecdote to say about these points that we're discussing. And today I had a call with the team, and we were talking about WeChat. And me having worked in Asia for many years, and you as well, we both know how important WeChat is for the Chinese market and for China in general, and how much they use it, and how much WeChat has actually replaced a lot of the traditional transaction model, which is I give you money, you give me change back. Now in taxis in China, you don't give money, and a lot of them don't even accept cash anymore. You just pay with your WeChat app. You contactless payment through the phone. You just show your phone, you scan a QR code, done. Or you put it on a surface, and it just takes the transaction there. So I think the world in general is moving into more and more contactless, wireless, and I believe this is going to become now something that is a habit that will stay for the restaurants. They also mention here that traditional things like shared salt and pepper shakers will be removed. They also they tackle a bit the good old ketchup bottle that is usually a bit too old and moldy. That's completely going to be replaced as well.
People are going to where do you find that? I mean, if you're going to restaurants that have this, you should be just getting up and walking away. I mean, if you see a moldy,
moldy,
yes. Yeah, moldy. If you're seeing moldy, the way when I read that, I was like, how many restaurants do you go to where you find moldy ketchup bottles sitting on the table? I've seen the shared ketchup bottle.
I guess someone in the panel has been traumatized and never got over it.
Yeah, I'm guessing so, because I was like, this doesn't happen. I've never seen it happen. Yes, I've seen the shared ketchup bottle. I'm not a ketchup person, so I don't reach for it. But I couldn't understand where they're seeing this quite regularly, that they've had to raise that as a point.
But you have a lot of these. I mean, fair enough. You have a lot of these very antiquated rules or standards that are in every single audit checklist.
Yes.
And the ketchup bottle is in one of them always.
Yes. I mean, they're always on breakfast buffets. You always see the ketchup bottle on breakfast buffets. We have it on our breakfast buffet. Yes. I think there is one very good point that's raised in here. And I think this has always been in everyone's back of their minds recently. And someone's actually very well put it. They've said, we've just begun to win the war against single-use plastics. This could set us back years. And I think that's a very, very good point.
That is very, very important, because I think we've gone a long way into managing this and moving away from, 2019, if anything, was the year of the disposable straw. Everyone stopped using disposable straws everywhere. So, and we went into the metal straw, the wheat straw, the Morning Glory stem straw. I mean, we've gone through
the paper straw.
The paper straw. So I think a lot of efforts were done in there, and sadly, we've discussed this also with our chef here. We might go back to this disposable model, and I think restaurants need to be. They should not be too lazy to revert to the single-use plastic equipment. They should really make an effort to find a better way to do single-use. And as much as possible use biodegradable and organic material that doesn't have a negative impact on the environment. I think that's very, very important to keep in mind. One of the things that is making me sad, and I would like your opinion on this, is their take on physical menus.
Yes.
Physical menus are probably going to disappear. We're going to go to digital menus, iPads, tablets, because they're much easier to maintain and to clean. I'm a bit sad about this. I
don't agree.
You don't agree with me?
I don't agree. I don't agree physical menus will go away. I think physical menus will stay in the short term. Yes, definitely in the short term. But I think there are, when I went to China last year, I was blown away with this, because I ate at 3 places. One place had a iPad style menu.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I didn't eat at only three, but three places where I noticed this. One place which was not any high. I mean, this was like in a village. It was in the countryside. They had a physical menu, and on the last night we went to a place where you just scanned a QR code and you ordered through like a WeChat. I think it was through their
Okay.
Weibo system that you could order, right? And you order through a WeChat platform. Because the entire menu comes in there, and you actually order on your phone, and that order then goes directly to the kitchen. So you don't actually kind of look at the menu on there and go, oh, okay, I'm going to have this, this, and this. You physically say, I want 2 of these, 1 of these, 3 of these, bang, send, gone, right? That there are certain places that can implement that.
Yes.
The last place, I wouldn't say it was a very casual dining, busy, very busy, but it was a casual dining restaurant. But I think there are certain levels in the scale. Like if you're paying, Sebastian, if you're going to go to, and I don't want to harp on about fine dining restaurants all the time, but if you're going for that higher average check, and you're kind of doing more of a finer cuisine, or you're a more formal dining restaurant, people expect you to have clean menus. It's this expectation. It's like
True.
it's an unspoken about law that they expect. If I'm paying XYZ for my dinner tonight, and I'm at the upper scale, then I expect, and you've got a professional team of waiters. You've got your maitre d's, you've got the full brigade. You expect that this brigade will have time to go through implement their own sanitizing and cleaning schedules for their menus, right? If you're at a casual dining, fast dining in and out, where they're more focused on speed, and there's not so many the waiters just literally running food to the table and going to the next level, then you probably wouldn't expect, you don't expect that. So I think physical menus will stay at certain places. I think the thought that it'll be completely gone, I think in the short term, everyone will panic, jump up and down, and go, "Yeah, we have to remove it." But eventually, man, you know what's going to happen. Eventually, it'd be naturally expected that you can go to a fine dining restaurant, and the last thing I want to do is get an iPad with the menu
True.
and photos of the dishes.
I'm going to hit you with a curveball, and it's a pet peeve of mine as well. And also we can link this to one of the other topics, which is the whole sanitization and microbiological aspects of things, which is one of the other topics that discuss here, which is part of the contactless as well, and the materials, right, that we'll be using. So let me put this scenario to you, Hisham. You are going to a 5-star hotel, or let's say a 5-star hotel. You expect a certain level of cleanliness because you're paying a lot of money. So you know that they're going to be clean, they have standards, they have procedures and measures in place to make sure that your food is safe and clean, right? Why the hell do we still, to this day, pre-COVID, deliver in-room dining, room service, plates covered in plastic wrap? And it's
Well,
wrapped all the way until it's put in front of you. And then they remove this damn wrap in front of you. And
yeah,
every time I see this, I'm so upset. I'm thinking, this is the most inelegant way of doing things. I mean,
I think
I have no problem if you cover the food all the way to my room, but please, for the love of God, before you give it to me, remove the wrap.
in-room dining is the laziest part of every F&B operation in hotels, right? And
Sadly,
I'll tell you why I say it's lazy, because no one innovates in-room dining. Okay, they do
for
the
some
exact
strange reason.
yeah, right. They do the exact same. You know what they do? They've in-room dining is a city hotel, like it's a city hotel, business hotel product, right? You've done your work, you've been at your conference all day, you come in, you're working on the laptop, or I mean back then it would have been your computer, you don't know what you were doing, right? And
Mm.
um, I was going to say typewriter, but I don't think people are carrying typewriters.
Not that
Right? But and then you order your room dining, and this, the guy comes in with the bow tie and the law, literally what you imagine in TV, and you can order a lobster to your room, and it's gone.
You're describing it as this is happening in the 1930s, and it's
Exactly.
still happening today.
Well, they've taken that model, and they've kind of kept on saying, well, it comes back to my favorite topic. That's why you still have the club sandwich on there. That's why you still have the Caesar salad on there.
The tomato soup.
Because yes, right. Because you're stuck
the minestrone.
Exactly. But let's be honest, though. In-room dining you do now in-room dining at home. And what I mean by in-room dining, all these food delivery platforms, Uber Eats, Grab Eats,
Deliveroo,
right? Deliveroo, all these companies are offering a version of in-room dining.
And they're doing it better than restaurants.
They're doing it better than restaurants, and hotels need to adapt to that, because I don't believe in-room dining will die. I think in-room dining is here to stay, right?
No, I think this is really a game changer. This is where hotels will be able to make a big difference.
Exactly. And I think if there's anything to come out of, I think more and more, there used to be a time when you went on a trip and, I think people's attitudes and perceptions of holidaying have changed, because it used to be you go on a holiday and you had to go to the restaurant for dinner, and you go out to dinner, you go and explore, right? Now, people just want to enjoy the room, right? If you're paying $300 for a room, people are like, you know what? Let me enjoy my room. Let me enjoy relaxing. People go on holidays to relax and just get away from it all, right? And some people don't see getting away from it all is to go and hang out at a bar or a restaurant with other tourists. It might be just staying in their room, and they want to order in-room dining. And that's when you get these terrible in-room dining menus with the soup and the club and all that kind of stuff. And they have to adapt. So, and this plastic cover stuff, that's still something from the past, which was practiced a long time ago, and it's still there. And I'm sure it would have been something like a hair may have fallen in a salad or a soup or something like that back in the day, and everyone's gone, you know what, from now on, we're going to cover all our food. And, that best practice went to the next hotel,
So we make sure it's nice and steamed when it arrives at the room, and your fries are nice and soggy.
Exactly.
But I have nothing against the principle, because at the end of the day, it's done to protect the food from any outside element. I'm happy with that. What I'm not happy with is that it's just considered normal to keep the food covered until the guest is actually in front of the plate, and then you remove this really wrinkly, disgusting piece of plastic with your fingers. I would remove it before I present it to the guest as a courtesy, right? Yeah.
Now let's talk about the probably some of the couple of the most I don't use the word controversial, because there's nothing controversial about this, but food concepts. Something that's got us both. Let's not say the word razzle, but kind of both has us both talking a bit more, and it's about the sharing concepts, right? And let's talk about that. They've said sharing concepts will be the first to go, and one of them was written, I'll be glad to see the back of them. In many cases, bar Middle Eastern Mediterranean concepts, they were an excuse for lazy kitchens to serve food on the middle of the table as when chefs were ready. They have ruined restaurant dining.
Well, again, if you don't like it, don't go there. No one is forcing you. And to put an entire style of service into with everyone else as a disaster, I think it's a bit strong. And if we can go further, entire food cultures are based around sharing. So,
but isn't all meals designed based on sharing?
As a family?
Yes. Like, it isn't, okay, unless you're an individual diner, isn't the entire process of eating a sharing concept.
For sure. I mean, everything is about sharing. The chef shares his effort and his time
Exactly.
to serve you. And I think that particular panelist panelist just has gone to too many bad Middle Eastern and Mediterranean restaurant concepts where, yes, maybe the chefs there were lazy and just wanted to dish out easy food in an easy way. But I can't put everyone in the
But
same basket.
it comes back to, if you get, and I can't, you kind of hit the nail on the head when you first said it, which was, why would you go, if you don't like sharing concepts, why would you go to a restaurant that then has sharing concepts? I mean, I mean, in most places, as soon as you enter, they'll tell you, oh, this is a sharing style dish, right? So if you don't want sharing style food, why would you go to it? Yeah, I'm a bit lost on that line. But it does now. It talks about separation.
Yes.
And interestingly, it was Mother's Day on Sunday, and that new cafe I was talking about, that we talked about the food, the coffee culture, which was new to me. What do you call it? The coffee hoppers.
Coffee hoppers.
Coffee hoppers. Though I'd witnessed them many times, I didn't actually know that was a subculture. Interestingly, so we went back there on Sunday, and on Sunday they had all the acrylic screens between in front of you, right? I think I sent you a photo. Yes. This is now standard in Thailand. Not standard, but most people are implementing this kind of screen. Now, first, there's two. I mean, when I sent that photo to my family, my sister kind of said, "Why would they do that? Because you're a family. Both of you come together. You eat together at home. Why do you need to be separated at a restaurant?" Now,
because there was a screen between you and your wife, and a screen
exactly.
between. Okay.
Yeah, and I kind of go, well, there's two things. First of all, they don't know that's my wife,
True.
Right? For all they know, that's a colleague, right?
True.
So their responsibilities for everyone. So it doesn't matter if I say, oh, but this is my wife. We're at home, we don't wear masks, and it's normal.
We're not in a situation where we can really do custom made stuff.
Exactly. So I don't disagree with it. And then the second part is, their responsibilities for everyone else. You sneeze, yes, maybe your wife's okay. You may be sneezing and coughing at home, but you've seen many of these videos where you see the arterial spray go everywhere, and it goes 3-4 tables. At least the screen's there to protect not just the person in front of you, but the people around you. So that's the new normal. Yes, family dining where people are sharing things on the table, and it's affected. We wanted to share. We went out for breakfast, and generally, we'd order a dish to eat, and we always try and order one sweet dish, which is like a French toast or a pancake, to share at the end. And that becomes quite difficult when you have a screen in front of you. Right? Yes. You can just imagine. So, I think when they talk about, and they do talk about buffets as well, and they say buffets are gone, and some people are happy to see the back of buffets. One guy had written said, look, the buffet was on its way out anyway. True. Brunches are moving towards a la carte. I disagree with that. I don't believe buffets are on the way out. There are entire cultures that only eat buffet.
No, absolutely.
If you go to the subcontinent, India, Sri Lanka, right? Majority of, a lot of these wedding, most places, restaurants, they would have a buffet because it is the cuisine's all about sharing, mixing, and you've got different curries. That's the style of eating. To say it's on its way out, maybe the bad buffet, the buffet that has 300 dishes, and but that also caters to a completely different market, which attracts travelers purely for that. As much as we hate to say, that people are saying, well, I'm happy to see the end of the breakfast buffet. Some people click on the sell or the buy button purely on the fact that it says breakfast buffet included.
But it's very interesting that you say this, and that can lead us to another point, which is related to that, is that what people need to understand is the hospitality industry. One of the difficulties we have, one of the challenges, is that we're trying to be unique and creative and innovative. And at the same time, we are catering to people who are from all over the world.
Yeah.
So everyone coming and staying at your hotel is from a different background, different culture, different country, different habits. And everyone tries to find what they like where they go because it's safe, right? You stick to what you know. And so how do you do that in a hotel scenario? And that's why we have all-day dining restaurants, because the all-day dining caters to, as much as possible, the majority of the people you have. That's why you have a buffet. That's why you have the club sandwich, and that's why you have a wide selection of things. Now, us in the F&B industry, we don't like this because that means dilution, right? You try to please the biggest amount of people. That means you can. It's very hard to do very high quality because you're not specific. You're mass. But as you said, people just travel for that. And share. You had a very heartwarming Mother's Day experience. You went with your family to a coffee shop, and you had. I just watched a video on Reddit about a Mother's Day dinner experience at one of the Red Lobsters in the U.S., where a lady had to wait 3 hours in line to get a seat at the Red Lobster because they were short on staff and they were doing a reduced layout. And she completely went ballistics and started hitting people. So again, people have different understanding of what it means sharing and what it means social distancing, and it's very difficult to make a one rule for all, right?
Yeah. I won't go through all the other ones are about design and architecture, but there is something that they touched on is the psychology. And
yes,
I actually found this the most gripping part of this entire document, would you believe? Right? Because it's not something we think about, right?
I think about it all the time.
Do you? Okay.
Yeah, but I'm weird, so maybe that's why.
Because you know what? There's something that this line covers it, right? Psychology. Introverts and germaphobes will need reassurance. At one end of the spectrum, many social animals find Homer's isolation genuinely challenging and were among the first to return when restaurants open, cafes and bars open their doors. I think this will be one of the biggest factors in reputation for restaurants going up, because I think this is where most businesses could easily drop the ball, because it's going to come down to, and this is my thought on this, and I'll let you throw your comments on. I think what's going to happen is there's going to be, let's be honest, majority will be somewhat relaxed, and we're not at the start, but let's say a couple of months down the track, humans are sheep, right? They see things that everyone else is quite relaxed. They kind of go, well, why am I panicking when everyone else is relaxed, right? Mm-hmm. So, restaurants are going to see, most of my guests are pretty chill. Yes, we do our process, but, they're pretty chill and, I don't need to panic too much. And it's going to take, that could easily lead you to drop the ball when you have one person who's genuinely germaphobe. And my wife's a bit of a germaphobe to some levels, right? And as soon as you drop the ball, it's going to blow up and everyone's going to know, it's going to be out on the papers. It's going to be out in social media. Look at these guys. They don't do this. They didn't clean this. And reputations will be lost. And that, and because people are going to think everyone's pretty chill, everyone's pretty cool. Most of my customers are, we're a fun restaurant. Most of my customers are here to have fun. They're all extroverts. No one's really picking up on too many things. And all of a sudden, it's going to blow up. And I think restaurants really need to go through the process of reassuring every single person. And it may get very boring, because, you do the same thing 18, 19, 20 times, and you're going to go, listen, no one's died yet, so why am I don't need to panic so much. But
That's the danger.
yeah,
It's with these viruses, right? It's something we can't see, and so as human beings, we're like, oh, well, I can't see it, so it's not real.
yep,
And that's the danger. And I completely agree with you. And I'm the first one to say, and I've said it many times throughout my career, and to this day, I still wonder how come the hospitality industry and the restaurant industry, we are all about people. That's the only thing we do, is deal with people. Our people, our guests, our bosses, our team members, everything. We deal about people. The hardest part is not to follow standards, is to make people follow standards. And for companies and an industry that is so people focused or centric, we do zero efforts into understanding who is our customer. Not only on the, I mean, okay, when you say to a hotel, who is your customer? The answer is going to be, my guest mix is such. 20% of my clientele comes from Korea. 30% of my clientele comes from there. And 15% comes from there. That is what they say when they say they understand their clientele. But
the COR is we
the COR, the country of residence.
Yes.
But that is not understanding your customer on a psychological level. What age group is he in? What is he looking for? What is his background? What are his impulses? Why did he come here? And to cite, I had arguments with my bosses in the past where they said, I want you to implement this, just to give an example, this concept. Let's do a really fancy afternoon tea where people will dress up and wear hats. Or they would tell me, why don't you sell enough cigars? And to be honest, in their mindset, it's a very antiquated idea that the hotel guest comes, checks in, goes to his room, takes a shower, gets changed, comes down, goes to the lobby lounge, has a pre dinner drink, a martini, goes to the restaurant, orders the set menu or starter, main course, dessert, has a glass of wine, a bottle of water, a digestif, a coffee, and then after dinner goes to the cigar lounge, has a brandy and a cigar. This guest doesn't exist anymore. This guest is probably dead by now because he was a hotel guest in the 1930s or in the 1960s. But we have this idea that, especially in five-star hotels, we are most guilty in this in five-star hotels, in luxury hotels, that our customer is this really old school guy. That's not the case. Our customers were young Chinese hip people who were dressed completely from head to toe in Versace with Gucci shoes, checks in, and immediately leaves the hotel to go and explore the city and eat outside for $10.
Yep. Yep.
So we don't make enough efforts in understanding the psychology and the origin of our customers, of our guests.
Yep.
And you're right. Because of that, a lot of people will make mistakes, will take things easy, will not take the proper, or will relax too early, and that will be it. And it's a case of making the mistake once, and that's it.
Yep.
It's
I
very
100%,
dangerous.
I 100% agree, and I kind of think, and I found it interesting they put that on there. They put that article, not article, that subject on there, and I was happy they put that on there because it's really not something I would have. It even didn't even cross my mind, to tell you the truth. And I thought, well, you know what, that's good. It was a good point that this panel had discussed, and I think it's very important that this is that restaurants or the hospitality industry really does think about that. You do have there are a lot more people that are germaphobes now, will be more aware, especially kids, families. I know with a young daughter that I think about it a lot as well. What is she going to touch now? Where is her hands going to go? I mean, you always know kids are going to put their hands on everything and put everything in their mouth, but you're a little bit more cautious about it. And, to the point, like when we went on on Sunday, we have a mobile baby chair. We took the mobile baby chair with us because I said, listen, I don't know how good their cleaning is on the baby chair. And not that we had any, not that not that I had any reason to have that thought because they did anything like that. It's just naturally, it's something I think about now. So, I think it's extremely important. So, yeah, I agree. That's really all I had. I think the other stuff, we could talk about the other next couple of points next time.
Yep.
Because it's more about design. And I think design, I don't know enough about, I do know a bit about design, but I think there's some good things in there we could probably pick up on. But I just wanted to finish off on a lighter note. Our man's reviewed another coffee machine, by the way.
He has. I saw it, and I thought about you, and I thought about our viewers immediately. But I have not watched the episode yet.
And you know what? That's the kind of coffee machine he should be reviewing. Because well, yes, I agree with you, James. What he did was, it was a very technical, it was a beautiful coffee machine. And even he said, listen, it was €3,000. Right?
So we're speaking about James Hoffman, very well-known figure in the coffee world. He was world's best barista in the world in, I can't remember which year.
Yeah.
He has a coffee roastery. He has his own coffee company. He's written the World Atlas of Coffee. So he knows what he's talking about. And he's one of the guys that Heshan and myself, we really enjoy watching on YouTube because his content is very engaging.
And we discussed about him in our last episode when he reviewed a £2.99 coffee machine from Aldi. And I kind of said, and he rubbished it. And I kind of thought, well, what was he expecting? What was it? Actually, I had some more thought afterwards, though. I did think, maybe I kind of thought, well, there's probably a lot of people that watch him and go, they see this machine and they go, you know what? I want to also make coffee like James Hoffman or enjoy coffee like James Hoffman. They see this machine as a opportunity to get into that, that experience. And he's trying to say, listen, if you like coffee, this is not what you want because this is not going to deliver you what what I would consider to be great coffee. So I also thought about that after when I did a bit of soul searching after about it. But then today's machine, it's €3,000, and you kind of go, well, yes, James, that's the kind of machine that you should be reviewing. It's a domestic unit again. It's not a commercial unit. And it was a beautiful looking coffee machine. And, he had nothing but praise for it. And, this one, he attached this Bluetooth attachment where he could follow on his phone the
extraction.
The extraction. And I'm just sitting there going, oh, the coffee nerds would be just in awe of this right now. So I had a bit of a giggle to myself, but James being James. So, yeah. Anyway, Sebastian, thank you once again.
Thank you, Heshan, as always.
Enjoy the rest of your week. Thank you, everyone, for listening.
Yes, as usual, we'll put links to what we've discussed or interesting articles or videos that we like and that we talk about in the episode in our description. And please feel free to leave comments, questions, topics that you would like us to cover, interrogations, and we'll be happy to tackle it.
And like I said, this white paper that we were discussing there is a link for it on our Facebook page, so you can easily find the document and read through it yourself. Till then, stay safe. Have a good one.
Stay safe. Thank you for tuning in and see you soon.